occasion of retreat, group retreat, contemplating the supportive signs of a group retreat, which is collected restraint, collected silence, collected form. So instead of the scattering or the more diversities of forms and energies and activities, there's a relative harmony of them, conforming in a helpful way. It allows for autonomy in terms of your personal experience, your intimacy experience, how you meditate, and so forth. And yet trying to hold all that respectfully within something that gives rise to that shared benefit. So naturally we can kind of focus on the, me and mine, and the autonomy and my particular qualities and experiences. And that's all part of it. And also just deriving some benefit from the sense of there's a lot of stillness here. Externally, whatever's going on, internally, there's something just referring to that. Even just sitting with your eyes open and seeing the stillness and group, beings, harmless, trustworthy, aspiring, putting forth energy, supporting. It's perceptions, so important. Cultivate skillful perceptions. To counteract unskillful ones that give a sense of grief or frustration or craving. These probably arise. Need to be dealt with, need to be met, need to be understood. Perceptions, impressions, memories, interpretations, how we take on things, on people, on events and relationships and personal predicaments, and they've got stuck, that stick. Why do they stick? Because they become me. It's the drawback of perception. And perception is useful to interpret, to assess, get a sense of orientation. This is this, that's that. How much of it gets stored up, which is of no benefit? And why? Becomes me, and even if it's unpleasant, becomes my grief and my sorrow and my disappointment and my negative stuff. And there's a lot of energy in that. Energy starts this throbbing. Sankhara's activations, responses. I get frustrated, I get irritable, I get disappointed, I feel stuck. Activations activate. Becomes me, becomes I am, becomes I'm enmeshed in all this. And even delightful perceptions that become me, the good old days. happy times, the wonderful things I could be doing, that somebody else is doing. Or the visions of the cottage on the hill, the goats in the meadow, buttercups. I used to have these visions. Becoming me is the way I could be. I could be like this instead of sitting here. Activations, frustration, craving. Dukkha. How does something pleasant become dukkha? Just like the relentless pounding pressure of it to get it. To get rid of those things that have become me, and to finalize the things I want to be, to really achieve them, those things I want to be, those ideas, those impressions. Then it'll be good. And this is basically the way that people behave. Craving to get rid of, craving to become, craving to have, and then gripped into me, mine, my life. If I wasn't an anagarika, then I could be out scuba diving, going to drink coffee in the evening with my friends, listen to music. If I wasn't stuck in this deadbeat place, and I could get onto something more interesting, progressive, useful. Becoming me, my life, me, mine. And this is such a powerful formulation, poignant, so rich, so flavorful, so grabbing, arresting, grabbing the heart, that a good part of the time, most of us believe it. Or we half believe it. We're tempted by it. And yet you're going to just consciously just lift from that, just like you're in a helicopter, just rising above that scenario, just rising out of that scenario. Just don't condemn it, just rise above it. How's this feel? How's it feel now for that? Stressful, unfulfilled, frustrating, irritated, impatient, very embedded. You want that? That's telling you that's where it's going to take you. It's showing you. If you get the right perspective, it's telling you something. Get the right perspective, it tells you something. Yeah, this is dukkha. And it's not that actions are dukkha, the perceptions are dukkha, that by themselves, it's just that forming a self out of them, picking up the ball and running with it. Balls are okay. You have to pick up, run with it. And those that need you to get running, they need you, they need your investment in them, your belief in them. Those ones you really want to be wary of. They're feeding on your energy. Buy one of these, get one of these, have one of these, you'll be something. Go here, go there, you'll be something. Pay up, you'll be something. Feeding on your energies, feeding on your heart. In this sense, these aggregates are considered to be like assassins. They come to the house, the owner opens the door, hello, we've come to help you. offer you some nice things. Oh, wonderful. I'll give you all kinds of things you could do and have and become. Oh, great. Take him in, and they murder him. Takes them in. Okay, yeah, it's a good idea. Then they slash his heart to pieces. This is the way that the suttas review that experience. And of course, the thing is, even slashed to pieces, we get up and do it again. Reform. Take another one. Take another set in. Just that ability to just lift out of the picture. How does this feel now? And how does the sense of just lifting? What's this? And inquiring, not so much into the perceptions, but the pull. It's called asada. Asada, it's a pulling sweetness, enticing. The pulling in. And the Buddha said, review it like this. And in that, also notice the being pulled in, adinawa, danger. Danger. Riptide, suction, vortex, danger. Second thing to review. Knowing the danger, aware of the danger, feeling the energies of being pulled, dragged, driven, locked, lifting. In the lifting, in the non-intoxication, the non-belief, sustaining it, the pull lessens, weakens. Who is this? Who is in this? Inquiry, Dhamma Vicaya, who's in this picture? Who is this being who is pulled and will become great and will have a good time, will become... Who is this? A jumble of needs and moods and energies and thoughts and so forth. Nothing solid in itself at all. Have some sympathy then for this plight, for this situation. Nisarana, the escape, the release, and the grip. This is how you review. There's no fighting in that, it's just careful lifting, viveka, disengaged, not bonded. Doesn't mean you fighting against, you disengage, just taking lifting to get a better view. Dispassion, no pressure, no, get stirred up one way or another, getting angry, getting upset, getting fascinated, getting involved. It's dispassion, cool, open, and reviewing. Who's in this? What is it? Just a jumble, just a tangle. Energies whirling around. Cool, opening, soothing, release, releasing. This is cultivation. Cessation of that very form, of that very energetic tangle and turmoil, ceasing. Cool, still, open. This is cultivation, bhavana. so that the domain of release, of openness can be realized and actualized. And as we realize that, we get a sense things are changeable, things are shifting, things are variable, things are waves that get intense and locked and into whirlpools and patterns, but they are waves. However much that riptide pulls, it is basically a waveform with high velocity. And actualize also means in this very intimate life, with memories that seem to be me, about me, with visions and anticipations that seem to be me, issues, problems, grievances, grudges that certainly seem to be me. Actualize within that. Then it gets really, really fitting in this very life with the people and the things, the situations that we get edgy, nervy, irritable, fearful, confused. Here, there, who's this? Next is the cultivation. Retreat situation, we get a good amount of support from that, from the, basically, there's quite a lot of lift in it. We're actually suspending routines, even putting our relationships on quiet, work minimal, suspending, and prepared to let things go the way they go, and each other to be how we are. Okay. Sense of just, may you be well. Has to be that going. And that sense of trust the process that you're in. It's intimate, it seems sometimes perplexing, it seems to be a lock or tangle that you haven't fathomed yet, it keeps coming up. And this is the occasion when, with that, referring to that open, steady context, we might gain the ability to rise into that perspective. Everybody gets this, everybody gets in their stuck stuff somewhere, not really so uniquely wrong with me. And let's feel the energy of that and review the tangle. Drop the topic, or just go soft on the topic, and look at the person who's affected. There's the key. There's the key to the lock. You've probably reviewed the topic many times, if you've got one of these nagging obsessions, like I do, like everybody does. You've probably been around this one quite a few times. And it's always got that same, sometimes it gets more intense, builds up. It gets quite psychedelic sometimes on retreats. You get really a lot of intensity, lucid grudges, or fantasies or projections of what I could or should be. And soft on that, just get this sense of the energy building up around things, and then also, who's the person? Who's this happening to? And it's a frustrating question because you can't find one. What you find is a mixture of ignorance, obscurations, not seeing, reflexes, jumpiness, blurred, jumps, not clear processing, but jumpy assumptions, blurred impressions, leaps to conclusions, whiplash reactions, avijja tanha, ignorance, craving, lashing around. And yet, we can review that. And yet, there's something present that can actually witness that. And yet, there's something beautiful and tender in that capacity to open around some pretty uncomfortable stuff. Remember that. Remember the Buddha recommended us to, kept reminding us that the realization experience, this is relative, impermanent, compounded, brought together. These formations, these perceptions, this locking is compounded, brought together. Not really a fundamental thing in itself. Even more potently, that very me who is afflicted and the I that acts upon it are inferences of no substantial reality, not self. What makes them seem to be self is they're familiar, they're intimate, and they stir, they arouse us, they arouse the heart. That quality seems to imply me, mine. That quality, that arousal, the intimacy, the familiarity, the repeated nature of it. This is, Now if we return to the modality of our cultivation, it's quite a broad thing. It's quite a broad field. It's quite a broad perspective that's encouraged. A wide perspective, an open perspective. The open road, life in the forest, this kind of nuances. Even retreats. When we first arrived here, we didn't do retreats. We had 1979 to 1981. 1981, there were no retreats. We just got on with it. Day after day, sit, evening meditation, morning meditation, night vigils, Dhamma talks. No, didn't do retreats. It was until 81. So let's have one of these things called retreats. But more or less every day, Ajahn Sucitto made a little point of saying, all compounded phenomena are impermanent. And he'd have this, sometimes he'd pick up this refrain, he'd take up a particular motto and just say it most every day, give a talk every morning. What is it that Buddhas know that unenlightened beings don't know? What is it that Buddhas know that unenlightened beings don't know? All that arises passes away and is not self. And they'd kind of extrapolate around that theme. He'd keep repeating this over and over again. Every day for a whole vassa went on that, like that. And then he'd give some examples of situations where things that seemed to be permanent, or we wanted things to be permanent, or things seemed to be certain, or we wanted things to be certain and they weren't certain. And things seemed to be something we could own and control and have, and they weren't. And people seem to be this way, and she really is one of those. And you found out, no, she isn't. And the constant recognition of the fallacy of that locked positions of permanence and selfhood. and how we can shift from one mode to another, from being extremely tense and gripped into being quite loving and generous and sweet. It can shift. And where's that gone? Feeling grumpy and hostile, and suddenly people turn up, they're cheerful and bright, and well, that's gone, Where did that one go? So you keep that perspective broad, noticing the changing of the person, the personal perspectives. We do this thing, meditation thing. We're really reviewing what the Buddha was presenting, and it's a kind of sensitive focus, absolutely sensitive focus, but it's actually focusing on the whole, on what's happening to you, not a particular chosen point to develop a lot of concentration on, but just the wholeness of what's happening to you. Certainly with sensitivity, certainly with some ability to find detail in that, but not losing the whole picture. And this wholeness, so it needs to be encouraged, because our life we do get this tunneling and funneling down into particular details, very much a feature of a high data lifestyle which we live in these days. High degree of close-up data, ideas, symbols, words, dates, times, clocks. High precision, we get a lot of that. Focusing down into the details, really visual and mental, visually and mentally dominated, where they can do these fine details of symbols and concepts. Yeah. And that's very much a product of what we call developed, or the mechanized or the technologized world, and you can see it gets finer and finer. And the context in which the teachings were given were not like that. Not data rich in that sense, not symbol and concept rich, very little writing, if any. Clearly, no clocks, no calendars, no deadlines, no to-do lists, no management. Wild. And these people lived out there in that. These Panchavaggiya, the 5 disciples, they were part of a band, a whole tribe of people who were wandering around living like out there in the wild, in the wilderness. And to live in the wilderness, it means you've got to be pretty alert, absolutely, tuned in, absolutely, be not only dealing with symbols and concepts, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with what comes in through the other senses, through the body, particularly. How you're walking, what's underneath you, whether the ground is firm. Rain, cold, heat, body. Body's aware of the body through moving through darkness, tuned into the body. And that's then everything attuned to making sure this body's kept safe. So a lot of that fundamental orientation around bodily existence, not conceptual existence or conceptual manipulation, but bodily existence, animated, vibrant, sensitive, reactive. And you're listening to the body's intelligence as it feels nervy or stumbling or insecure, tuning into that. And you get very agile, tuned in. You're listening, pick up odours on the wind, you can see a certain amount with your eyes, but maybe it's dark, and everything comes back to how's this body feeling. And this is so that's the kind of basic state. You have two qualities there. One is awareness, an open, which is not about the senses but not removed from them. We're aware of sense consciousness. That is, we can be aware I'm seeing things, I can't see things. We're aware of tactile consciousness, something's touching me. Aware of perceptions, I can see something, do I get a clear vision of that, or is that not so? Am I perceiving things correctly or not? Is that an elephant or is it the side of a rock? So just aware of perceptions, aware of consciousness, but at the same time not bonding to them. Because if you get too mesmerized by one detail, you lose the big picture, and something might be behind you, underneath you, you trip over something. So you're aware but not engaged. You're tuned in, but you're not engaged with this stuff. And you're probably not thinking about planning next year's vacation, or what's for dinner, or she said this to me 5 years ago. That is totally useless. In fact, dangerous to be distracted. So just that state, minimal conceptual data, emphasis on embodied, animated life, tuned in. You have awareness, which is not engaged, it's always open, has to be. We have consciousness arising, experience of form, something solid, warm, this form, externally, moving around through grass or across areas of land, internally, energies, pulses in the body. Is it stressed? Is it excited? Is it numb? Is it restful? How is the energy? Internal reference, external, internal reference, aware of that. And it changes. So everything's been referred back to that, right? Because this is the key. This is the one about, I'm going to tell you whether you're going to survive or not. Tell you whether you're in danger or not. Tell you whether you're getting too excited, or nervy, or distracted. You're losing touch with the here and now. Wake up, pull back, come back to this. Get your feet on the ground. Remember where you are. Just that non-verbal learning process from a small age. Be here. So it's aware, it's here, it's embodied. That's your kind of basic template. And in that you can experience what is later talked about as the aggregates. Form, gross form, the formless body moving along, forms around me. Subtle body, the internal body, the sense of energies and vibrations within the body, subtle form. It's this. And it's changing, it's shifting, it's vibrant, it's alive. You can't make it one way or another, it does it by itself. You can't say, let my body feel vibrant and happy. No. But what you can do, as you get more tuned in, is okay, it's feeling dull and sluggish. Stop, stand still, take a breath. Expand your awareness over the entire body, and it will gradually return to balance. And you notice the participation in that. If you're getting angry and upset about it, that emotional disturbance will actually reflect into the inner body and stir it up. So you've got to be peaceful and open and kind. Not in a sentimental way, but non-aversive. It's feeling stressed. Open, widen, soften the attitudes. Give it time. It returns to balance. It's changeable. It's subject to change. It's subject to conditioning. Therefore, we regard that with attention, sympathy, intelligence. And it will then respond. That's the beauty of the animate condition. Right? That's what you're reading, the animate condition. The animate condition is responsive. If you review it with a hostile intention, it will be unpleasant. If you review it with a critical mind, it will be sour. If you review it with an open state, it will tend to untangle. If you review it trying to force it to be open, it will become tense. If you review it wondering why it's like this, it will become confused. If you stop all that mental input and just review it with, it's like this now, widen, include the whole body, you'll find balance. It'll ease up. That's the animate condition. You know, you're training to read the animate condition rather than the symbolic statement. That's the shift. Rather than the symbols and the concepts, which would be very good at reading. Yeah? Read the animate condition. Not the symbols and the concepts. Symbols and concepts means, well, obviously words, ideas, which we can run through the drop of a hat. Interpretations, I'm this, I'm that, I could be this, I should be that, people say this, Ajahn so-and-so says like that. That's all symbols and concepts. What are they? They're just noises. And yet, we read those and they cannot respond because they're just ghosts. Right? They're not animate. They're an idea. An idea is a ghost. It's a virtual reality. It has its uses. If I say, I'm going to Winchester, that's useful, but it's just, there's nothing in it, is there? It's empty. If I say, Winchester's a lovely town, Winchester doesn't smile because I say it's a lovely town, it's just an idea. Right? So rather than getting fascinated with the ideas, symbols and concepts, acknowledge that and lift from that or move from that into what is it referring to when I say I'm a confused person? I shouldn't be so confused. What's actually referring to? An agitated state. Where's that? Finding it in that animate condition where it can be responded to. It needs to be listened to. Not believed in, but opened around. Returning to the open state. The open state, call it awareness. This is a jnana, and it's a state that's citta. One of its potentials is this open state, heart, mind, citta. It can be that open, right? And this is, of course, something we kind of, oh yes, we remember, we can open, and we forget, because getting locked in is more intoxicating, seemingly more energized, more productive, more useful, more fascinating, more interesting, more colourful, more me, with all the wonderful things. Open state is just, There's the sweetness. There's the danger. There's the escape. And the open state, let's call it open awareness, jnana. Citta has that. It's like an open mouth. So everything comes in, but it seizes. It gets deluded. it gets fascinating, you can feel that awareness begins to pucker, tense up, and then fold up onto something. So though it's potentially a constant, we drift in and out of it, or we get pulled out of it by these riptides. And here's the sweetness, there's the danger, and here's the escape. And these pulls, these tides are so potent, poignant, stirring, urgent, important, and all that. Frustrating. She drives me nuts. There's so much in them that even we don't want them. They end up like the assassins. They've got you in a half Nelson. They've hooked you. Chitta's on the floor with his perceptions and formations trampling it. So then what do you need to support that? Well, you have this animate body, because everything that's playing out on that is feeding on subtle energies that stream through the body, and something we probably only half know. We know when we're angry we get heated up. We know when we get kind of mesmerised, we just go up into our heads, and fascinated by something on the screen, we lose the body. We probably recognise that. And you come out of it, oh yeah. Uh-huh. When you get frightened, you feel closed down and hardened. Right? That's what we call that subtle body, the energy body. And through steadying, soothing, extending, all those folds, where the awareness folds up, collapses in, tangles, those energies can untangle. It's like smoothing out the sheet of tangled formations. Kaya Sankara, bodily formations. Citta Sankara, mental formations. Vajji Sankara, conceptual formations. The tangle. Push into the tangle, fight with it, and you get more tangled. You get stuck in a net and you thrash around in it, you get more stuck. Soften, release, relax, you slip out of the net. This is the skill of the cultivator. And every time there's an occasion of slipping out of the net, even some of it, even one or two, features of that net, and it's, this is the open, this is released. Do you need identity for that? Can you just trust that? Do you need to have an identity for it? No. Don't need it. That messes it up. That contracts it. You begin to sense the identity experience as fundamentally a contraction, a grip, a grasp, upadana. The upadana hovering over these aggregates and then descending, catching, seizing, contorting, dukkha. And some support. Concepts and symbols aren't going to do you a lot of good because they're inanimate. They are ghosts. There may be interesting ghosts, but they're ghosts. There's no animate quality to them. They don't. What touches your nervous system, what touches your guts, what moves your heart is not an idea. It's the stimulation experience. These concepts can stir stimulation, but when one becomes attuned to a concept's just an idea, so what? You've heard it all. You don't get so stimulated by it. Nor distasteful, it's just that. It's all it ever can be. It's just a map, it's not a reality. What's the point of, you can't get embedded on it. You can't walk on a map. You can't eat a menu. It's purely a symbol and concepts. One becomes dispassionate towards them. Feeling, sensitivities, arousal, when they rise up, how flooding they are, how engulfing they can be, quality of feeling, and shifts and changes. You want the pleasant ones to last, and they don't. You want pleasant ones to pass away, and they don't. You fight, you hold. And that fighting and holding locks them into place. The way to get rid of unpleasant feeling is to open your mind, open your awareness around them. And they lose their power, they ebb. The way to keep unpleasant feeling going is to grab it, fight with it, complain about it, wrangle with it, describe who made me feel this way, blame myself for having it, try to get rid of it, wonder what I'm doing, stuck in this, what's ever going to get me out of it. That's the way to keep it going. So we just, unpleasant feeling. Most poignant, not just physical but psychological. He did this to me, she never did this. They always were like that. I felt like this. Yeah, unpleasant. Definitely unpleasant. Who's that? Do you want to keep being that person? Or there's the attraction, there's the strange macabre delight, firming up an identity around one's grievances, and a world forming around one's grievances. There's the delight in becoming solid, even if you're just solidly indignant. There's the attraction, there's the danger. Open around that. Here's the escape, the way out. So using this potential we have for liberation, for release, these key signs, dukkha, anicca, anatta, turning them from Buddhist concepts into explored real experiences where the animated condition releases. You can feel it shifting, changing. And it is shifting and changing. When it seems locked, something has not been understood. When it seems trapped, something has not been understood. There's something holding it, returning to it, favouring it, firming it up. That's craving for becoming, craving for identity, an irrational but pernicious thirst. That's gripping, holding, limiting and contracting and yet very tempting possibility. There's the delight, there's the danger, here's the escape. So this is the way we cultivate. Now, sitting, walking, just how much identity do you need to walk? Zero, really. How many concepts? What's the right way to do walking meditation? Give me a set of concepts and ideas I can measure whether I'm doing it right. Like, well, walk, Yeah, but how do you walk? Well, like walk. What's the right way? Well, like walk, Walk like walk. But how long for? Well, what feels about right. 25 paces? Yeah. I've only got 20 paces. Well, 20 paces will do then. Is 25 better than 20? Well, if you've got 20, 20 is what you got. What about 30? Well, if you... Slow or fast? How fast? How slow? Just like, well, comfortable. Walk comfortable for a comfortable period of time so you get what you need out of it. Your body knows how to walk. Just don't concern yourself with distance and duration. These are ideas. The body doesn't know about that. The body only knows how to lift a leg, how to swing the pelvis, how to relax the shoulders, how to flow along. The body knows how to do that very well. The body's not concerned with how long and how far and where it's going. The body's concern is to maintain a supple balance that stops you falling over. When you land on one foot and one foot's in the air and you're not falling over, that's a miracle. Enjoy that. That's what the body does, and it's very tuned into that. Get tuned into that rather than the concept of doing walking meditation. Then you're cultivating what should be cultivated. Your citta comes back to the here and now, settles into something that's relaxing, comforting, fluent, rhythmic, soothing. That's what it's about. So those driven forces, those compulsive energies, those why do I have to do this states, those what am I going to do tomorrow, all that stuff is sensed, directly sensed. How's this feel? What's happening in the body? What's happening to my awareness? Open, steady, give it time, keep walking, walking. This is the escape. So let's take some time for our own direct practice.